Islam, 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 Islam. I am Dr. Torre Anu Rasul Simpson Bay, Council General, the God Allah Georgia Territory, giving rise and praise to our Father God Allah. Honors to our Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Honors to everything that is Moorish, our Grand National Flag, emblem and seal, divine Constitution, and bylaws of Moorish America. We want to welcome you to another Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class sponsored by our Moorish American government. Host instructor, Dr. Shedu Amenti Muhajjab Shual, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh. And today's ears class will be hosted by the Georgia Consulate, part itself. The platform provided by the Georgia Consulate. Islam, Islam, Islam. Grand Risings family, how we be on this grand manifest?
Wonderful, Islam.
Islam. Islam, Dr. Bati Bey.
Islam, Islam.
Islam, Islam, Chairman. Islam, Chairman. Yes, sir. Glad to have you on the manifest, sir. Dr. Bati Bey, you stationary, grand man?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, will you lead in prayer, grand man?
Islam.
Islam. All right. Well, gratitude. And I handle the Constitution. And Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey, I see you just popped up, grand man.
Islam, God, man. Yeah. Gratitude. Peace and love to you and all the Moors online.
Peace and love. You want to read the chapter of the week?
Yes, sir. That's chapter 20, correct?
Yeah. Islam.
Funny? Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll be honored to do so.
Gratitude. Gratitude.
Got it right here on deck.
Hey, it's always on a blessing to be home, man. Don't play.
Absolutely. Man. I'm with that.
Woo. Man, praise Allah for the prophet. Man.
That's right. Forever and a day.
Forever, man, forever and a day. You know, that's a song by Layla Hathaway, used that in her song. Forever and a day. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, we got Dr. Diane Carter Bay checking in. Okay.
Okay, let me down that.
Yes, sir. We'll be starting shortly. Islam.
All right, Islam, gratitude.
Islam. Dr. Diane Carter Bay, Islam. How you be, goddess and queen? Islam, Dr. Sebsu to the Common Bay, our National Grand Secretary of State. Islam, goddess and queen.
Islam.
Islam, Dr. Dan Carter Bay.
Islam.
Islamism. All right. And Dr. Sebsu to the Common Bay, Islam, National Grand Secretary of State.
Islam.
All right.
Glad to be here. Welcome.
Right.
Welcome.
Yes, it is. That's right. It's an honor and a blessing to be home. Well, we have 2 minutes, family. Before we begin, opening up the way. let me see, before we get started, 7WZ7FU. Is that our Grand Sheik, National Grand Sheik, or is that Dr. Leroy Larry Bay?
It's Moorish American set.
One love. One love.
Divine family. You know what the thing go, Moorish.
Oh man, good to have you, Dr. Golden Smith Bay. Islam.
Islam divine family. Keep it real.
Yes, man, what you say. All right.
Islamism without the schism. Like that would say.
Yes, Islam.
Act 1.
Moorish America. Well, Islam family, we're going to open up the way, and we just want to welcome everyone to another Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate class sponsored by our Moorish American government. Our host instructor is our National Assistant Grand Sheik of Moorish America, Dr. Shadu Amenti Al-Muhajjiseb Shuel. And today's class platform will be hosted by the God Allah Georgia Consulate. And we just asked that we open up the way, and Dr. Bati Bey will be starting off with our Moorish Egyptian Adeptus prayer. Islam.
Islam. I'd like to rise and give our man praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet, honors to our theocratic government, our Royal Council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution. So for angels, muftis, our citizens alike, honors to all the Moors that are here, all Moors everywhere. Islam. And I'll begin with the committee at that Moorish American prayer. Ya Allah abnu haru makunetadu. Ya Allah abnu het. Peace. Ya Allah abnu haru makunetadu. Ya Allah ab het heru. Ya Allah ma'at heru. Ya Allah haru. Ya Allah ma'at heru kuti. Peace, Moors. Ya Allah abnu haru makunetadu. Ya Allah ab het heru. Ya Allah ma'at heru. Ya Allah hotep heru. Ya Allah haru. Ya Allah ma'at heru kuti. Ya Allah awajeje juti. Ya Allah pertim sutek pertim haru. Ya Allah bamaduti. Al-Hedisepsis Day Abtu Ali. Ameen. Alisa, Alisa, Alisa. And that is to say, O Allah, the Father of the universe, O Allah, the Father of love, O Allah, the Spirit of truth, O Allah, the Spirit of peace, O Allah, the Spirit of freedom, O Allah, the Spirit of justice, O Allah, you are my protector, O Allah, you are my God, O Allah, you are my salvation by night and by day, O Allah, through our holy prophet, O Allah, draw li on me. Holy Isa, Holy Isa, Holy Isa, Islam. Peace.
Islam and peace. Dr. Bati Bey, gratitude for the reciting of our Moorish Egyptian Adept prayer. Islam, Islam, Islam. I'm Dr. Torre Anu Rasul, Sister Bay, National Sister Grand Chairman of Moorish America, giving rise and praise to our Father God Allah, honor to our Holy Prophet, Noble Jawar Ali, honor to everything that is Moorish. I come before you now with the divine constitution of Moorish America. Salvation, our God, unity. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the citizens of Moorish America. The bylaws, Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws. And all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of the said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace and blessings be upon him, the founder, father, and framer of the divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America. And now that this meeting has been opened, according to Act 2, and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, we say Islam, Islam, Islamism. And at this time, we'll have our reading, a chapter of the week by Dr. MATHENO'S Bey. Islam.
Islam family and gratitude, God, man. Yes, I am Dr. MATHENO'S Bey, Consul General of the Texas Consulate, rising, giving all praises to the great God Allah, giving highest honors to his prophet, our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali. Give high honors to our theocratic government, our Moorish American government. Give high honors to our Act 1. I give high honors to all of our officials. Give high honor to this class, Egyptian Adaptist Research Sultanate class, as well as I give honors to the host, Dr. Shidu Amitia Moheji Shepswell, and also those that aided in bringing forth this class tonight, this morning, Dr. Torre Anubis Rasul Ali, Rasul Simpson Bey, the Georgia God Allah counselors. And I give honors to everything that's Moorish. Our flag, our seal, our emblem, our divine constitution, Holy Quran, Book of Ali, our 101, 102s, our exhument of a nation, all of our divine revelations, I give honor. And I'll begin chapter 20, the council of the seven of the world. In every age since time began, but seven sages lived. At first of every age, these sages meet to note the course of nations, people, tribes, and tongues, to note how far towards justice and love the race has gone, to formulate the code of law, religious postulates, and plans of rule best suited to the coming age. An age had passed, and lo, another age had come. The sages must convene. Now, Alexandria was the center of the world's best thought, and here in Philo's home, the sages met. From China came Mingste, from India, Vidyapati came, from Persia, Caspar came, and from Assyria, Ashbina came, from Greece, Apollo came. Matheno was the Egyptian sage, and Philo was the chief of the Hebrew thought. The time was due. The council met and sat in silence 7 days. And then Mingste rose and said, the wheel of time has turned once more. The race is on a higher plane of thought. The garments of our fathers' war have given out. The cherubim have woven a celestial cloth, have placed in our hands, and we must make for men new guards. The sons of men are looking up for greater light. No longer do they care for gods hewn out of wood. They seek for Allah, not made with hands. They see the beams of coming days and yet comprehend them not. The time is right, and we must fashion well these garments for the race. And let us make for men new garbs of justice, mercy, love, and love, that they may hide their nakedness when shines the light of coming days. And Vidyapati said, our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wilds and at him cast their lamps, and they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest for men. The night is dark. The heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed. It is already dead. Its greatest needs are graves and funeral chants. The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest, enables him to go alone and lay his offerings on the shrine of Allah. And Casper said, in Persia, people walk in fear. They do the good for fear to do the wrong. The devil is the greatest power in our land. And through a myth, he dandles on his knees both youth and age. Our land is dark, and evil prospers in the dark. Fear rides on every passing breeze and lurks in every form of life. The fear of evil is a myth. It is an illusion, a snare, but it will live until some mighty power shall come to raise the ethers to the plane of light. When this shall come to pass, the Magian land will glory in the light. The soul of Persia calls for light. Islam.
Islam, and gratitude, Dr. MATHENO'S for that reading of the chapter of the week. Islam, Morris King. Well, at this time, we're going to go ahead and open up the floor for our host, National Assistant Grand Sheikh, Dr. Shadu Amenti Muhajjab Shawel. Islam, Grand Man.
Islam.
There he is. Islam.
Gratitude. Islam,
Right.
Lord America. But let us rise upon the seven and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin, once again, here, there, and everywhere. And therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything. And I do mean everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. I want to welcome our Moorish kin once again to another Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate session. Praise be to Allah. And I hope our Moorish kin was able to get that video throughout the week. Everything that I sent to the Moors, because we definitely sent it out. And hopefully Rome ain't tried to have no stronghold on that demonstration. But most definitely, we are coming forth with a recap of the homework, that our Moorish kin had given Moors more time to bring forth their measures. And praise be to Allah, we look forward to all that our Moorish kin had to bring forth in this special session. And we are basically dealing with the abjad, ordering of this measure. We already had it in the abjad ordering, but it's good to refresh ourselves with our own insight, so to speak, because this is how we start everything off. And thus far, the basis of the knowledge that we have laying that foundation has given us a tremendous understanding, of the transitions between the language and linguistics and etymological connections and everything else. And we find out that there was truly one language in the beginning. That's the main key. And so we are most definitely closer to the mark of, again, choosing, that which is best suited for us to begin building up a language, of conversing, based upon all of those things that were there, because that's what every nation of the earth has done. They have taken a particular portion of the information that was present, and they have built it upon that special information, and this is how they have come forth with all they have on the manifest now. So praise be to Allah for the work of our ancestors, just from that special standpoint, doing that special work, laying the groundwork, or a foundation for us to be able to come forth and even deal with the language. Because you let the European tell it, it's all dead, it's all lost, it don't exist no more. They want to separate script from the true alphabetical root, and all this is done to basically continue to make excuses, or we can say amplify, the resounding, of this cover up, that they continue to boldly proclaim, and I still ain't figured out how in the world how they come up with Greek, as being older than Coptic or the Hecoptic, when they know that the Hecoptic was the last stage of the Kemetic language, before the Arabic came in. So they got to make it make sense. Now you can't have it both ways.
Right.
So that's just one of the many mysteries. And also, how did the Ptolemaicism, end up dominating the Kemetic, foundation? That don't make sense. If that thing that they call the Rosetta Stone originated, during 333 BC, didn't even exist during the Old Kingdom or during the pre-dynastic period. Yeah. So how is that even possible for you to come up with something, years later and say, well, this is what they really meant? And then the people fall up under that sway and they embrace it and they run behind it, man, and they'll fight you tooth and nail to basically accept what Rome has put out here. So, we have found our way through this maze, and this quagmire, so to speak, of confusion that the European has demonstrated by coming forth with our language, our culture, trying to teach us. And now we are re-educating ourselves after de-educating ourselves. Deactivating that NBC mindset of thinking Rome had everything that was right. And if loving Rome, ain't right, then they don't want to be right. So praise be to Allah. But at this time, what we're going to do, we're going to call forth our Moorish kin, because we see them over there. Everybody look like they ready. They done unlatched their scimitar. Yeah, we got you. We ready for you, Sister Grand Chief. So let us call forth these hierophants. Sister Curta Bay already ready. Goodness gracious. She Islam, we're gonna open up the floor for our Moorish kids so we can get a grand drawing. We love you, Moors. All right, Sister Curta Bay, what have you to bring forth, Goddess and Queen?
Islam, Islam, Islam. Dr. Dendra Nia Kurtabay. First, let me rise and give praises to the great God Allah. I give honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Act One. I give honors to all my government officials. I give honors to everyone on this line this morning. And I give honors to you, National Sister Grand Sheik, for all that you do. And I just want to let y'all know always, I like to give my prompts, to let people know how much I really appreciate them and how honored I am to be a part of studying these lessons. And when I think about it and meditate on, like you say, the Europeans want to try to put a date on it. And I know we don't go by their dates and stuff, but when I start thinking about that, it's mind blowing to me how old these alphabets and things are, and you're teaching us to go back basically, to the beginning. And I'm just I still pinch myself and I say, great God Allah, is this real? Me, who would have thought little old me would be a part of something this big? But anyway, if I can share my screen, y'all bear with me, because I'm still okay. I'm gonna share my screen and say hit share. And Okay, what I did was, there you go. What I did, you said to write the abjad, to write them out. And that's what I did. And hold on a minute, let me get this out of the way so I can see. Okay, I hope my Moorish can wait a minute, let me make it a little bigger. I wrote my abjad out. I did the transliteration, and then I did the heretic, and I did the abjad order over here on this side. Can y'all see that, family?
Islam, we got
Oh,
you.
yeah, we see it.
We
Got
see you.
Islam. Okay, great. And then I wrote my heretic in this line, and this one I'm gonna have to try to do over, family, because I didn't like the way I did that one in the B under the heretic. And then I looked at some other alphabets, and I went to on this side. What I wanted to try to do is to write to different alphabets. The A pretty much stays the same in the heretic, and then when I looked at other heretic alphabets, they changed, but the A usually almost stayed the same. But when I looked at the B in the lesson, Dr. Shahid, that you sent out, and when I looked under the heretic for the B, it looked like this. It didn't look the same as the heretic that I got from the abjad. And so what I started doing is trying to compare the different ways they look, from the like the G. The G looked like, to me, like a sideways 9 or something. But in the lesson that has the lesson 1 that have the abjad in the the heretic in the last column, where that G looks like what I tried to draw right here. And then it did say under the comments that it's much confusion about that G and the K. And then when I looked at the D, it didn't look the same as the heretic in the lesson, in the abjad. The D looked like whatever that is. But on the other, when I looked at the heretic under lesson 1, the D looked to me like a G. But it did say under the comment, it talks about the foreign words, the N, the T, and the D. And then in the abjad here for the H, it looked like a little house with a dot in it. But under the lesson 1, the heretic, coming from the H, it did pretty much stay the same. I just kind of noticed, to me, like in that little circuit, that looked like a little line, but over here it's a dot, and that just may be the way the person wrote it. I'm not for sure, but that H still, it looks similar to the heretic in the under the lesson 1 that you sent out, Dr. Shahid. And then it did talk about that was the regular H, but it was often confused as the H with the dot under it. And we did have, even when we were studying the demotic, we had, I think it was about 5 H's. And so that's what I did right there. And also I went to, let's see. Also, I went to, I looked at the slide that you sent out. I like that one real good too. This one here. Let me see. Hold on, family. Give me a minute. Let's see. June 19th. 1 minute, family. Okay. Yeah, my son said, "You got it." I said, "Yeah, I think I got it." Let's see, this one here. Okay, all right, this one, and let me blow that up. You scroll down, and I like this chart. I was comparing this chart. I went to this chart and I start doing. That's what I was doing on the page. I went to this chart under the Hieratic here, and I liked it this, and because it has the capital A, and then it have the lowercase a, and then I saw how even in on this chart the alphabets are different. And I started putting it, and that's what I wanted to do. And then that's what I showed you on my paper on the side. I would like to put how the capital A look, and then the lowercase a. And I did 7 of them, but I didn't want to go too far because Brother Shahid, I didn't know if I was going too far, if I was on the right track, if I was off track. So I said I was going to wait and ask you first before I do all that, because I want to make sure that I'm doing everything right and that I understand everything that we want to do. But when I looked at these different letters, they all look different from the when I wrote down from the abjad, and I thought, and I come to the conclusion that the reason they look different because even in the lesson 1, it talks about those alphabets and things. It say the letters were used as like the first initial of a word. Elsewhere in a word, it would be used as the media, the final. So I'm thinking that's why they look different. Different because each alphabet, they may have been written at different times. And the reason they don't all look the same, I didn't know, Brother Shahid, I was going to get you to help me with understand that, why all of them don't look alike. But if it was wrote in different time periods, then it would be different because each, as time go on, they keep changing. And we did see that with the demonic. And I think I'm gonna stop, family, because that's all I had. And getting a little nervous here too. So that's all I had. And I hope I did everything right. So Dr. Shahid, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and you can let me know what I did right and what I did wrong. Help me here. Islam, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love. We give honors to you, sister, for that grand drawing. Powerful measure, sister. You did a good job. And you even went back to the demonic chart that has it all together, which is basically measures that came from the same website, the Sesh Metaneta demonstration. And the abjad, in the order that you placed it, praise be to Allah, we already had a measure on the manifest, but you were comparing these things. And how we know that the European came forth with their own version, of what they didn't even put it in the abjad order for one thing. So a lot of time the European is all over the place. So what we do is like me and the brother Marvin Edwards Bay had to do with the demotic, for example. You basically take those letters that they are saying the letter A, no matter how many they are, and you can group them into one particular order, so to speak, just like we did with the demotic. And that way you can get to the bottom of what's going on, and as far as getting into the ruling on the concept of the middle, the initial, and certain measures, that's a rule that was demonstrated in the Arabic. But I think more than anything, it's better to really focus on the actual alphabets as they note them. Even if they look different in one chart, like I say, you take that alphabet and put it beside the other alphabet, and where they say this is an A here, but they also say this is an A here. And yes, that can come from different time periods of the writings, so to speak. And it can also be an underdeveloped way of somebody writing something, but not writing it like somebody else wrote it, their particular style of writing. Now, when you see a complete change, like I said, between the symbols, that you have there, it's best to just group them as you see them. If they say it's a letter A, you group them all in the A category. You know, all the different symbols. You know, you can write that on the side of your abject. You know, like go back through it, write all the A's. If you see the B and you see more than one B that look different, you know what I mean? Then you do the same thing there and just go all the way down the line, because this isolates then the symbols or the letters so that you can better get a grasp on this. And then it will be useful when we go to going into this papyri, you know, because the Europeans, when they added the symbols to this demonstration, they really complicated it, you know, to a certain degree, you know, especially with people not being learned or being taught to even deal with the hieratic. Like, this is another one of them things, like, we are the first to come forth, you know, and begin demonstrating like this right here, you know, trying to get a people, you know, insight into the hieratic, you know. So as we go along, we will continue to unfold in perfection, and masterminds are able to trace themselves back and thus they know. So we will definitely push measures, you know, of clarity out here as we go along. But that's my best advice at this particular point, you know, as you are becoming familiar with the abjad, and now you have the order placing things there, you know, that will suffice, you know, the fact that you have these symbols and putting them in the groups with each other. And that's going to give you your stronghold, you know, when it comes to being able to grasp the language. So praise be to Allah. Islam, sister, goddess and queen, you got something else you want to add?
No, I was just saying gratitude. I'll go do that. I'll work on that next. Islam.
Islam. That's all right. That's all right. This is a process that we are all unfolding through, you know, and praise be to Allah that we have the courage to do so, you know. And most of our people, they'll rather leave it like it is and follow what Rome said. But we got the original papyrus, so it had to be transliterated, you know. So we're gonna sift through the scripts and we'll know what's even better fit for us to do it. More than anything, when we put the script together as we have, instead of just having it as one script, we're gonna have all those letters or the symbols on the side in the way that we will put it there. That way the people who are reading behind us, they'll have understanding. And when we start transliterating, we will be able to see actually what a word manifests, because some of these words we'll probably already be familiar with, you know, based on, you know, the knowledge we have. And as we go through the different dictionaries and so forth and so on. And so we'll be able to tell whether this is saying that or it's saying that, you know, because it's only a certain amount of words in circulation in the Kemetic language being used. You're going to see more than anything the name of the deity, you know, the Offset, you know, the Heru, you know, you're going to hear about the buildings, the pyramids, and, you know, certain things like that. So the more we grow, the more we know. Islam. All right. We see Brother Marvin Edwards Bey got his hand up over here. And we'll go to Brother Torre Anu Rasul Bey, Simpson Bey, you know, after our Brother Marvin Edwards Bey. Come on forth, grand man. Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey.
Islam. Gratitude. Yes, and gratitude for calling me. Yeah, I am Dr. Edwards Bey out of the Texas Consulate. Praise and honor have been given. Trying to figure out where to start. But yeah, you know, like as you were saying, and you know, it allows me to get a better grasp on really what's transpiring. You know what I mean, as to, you know, what we're attempting to accomplish, or what we are accomplishing. You know what I mean, by taking on this magnanimous job, because the European has really mixed up a lot of things, you know. And as I listened to also Mustafa Gadala in the universal writing modes, ancient Egyptian universal writing modes, you know, it sheds a tremendous amount of light on what exactly happened and why it happened. You know what I mean? Because They just wanted to put themselves, they wanted to give themselves some divinity. They just wanted to take some divinity, you know, so they wanted to bury the true alphabet, the true language. And so what I'll do is, you know, I did pretty much what Dr. Diane Carter Bay did. Now just hopefully I can find, hopefully I can find the information I'm looking for. So let me go to, so I did some scanning and okay, I'm gonna go with, let's see, one, okay, this one first. Okay, this is how I went about, you know, just like the guys did. I took this from one of your earlier sharing of information, one of the transliterated abjad, which was actually in the abjad order. So, and I just,
Islam, Dr. MATHENO'S Bay.
yes, sir.
Yeah, you actually showing
Taking registration.
taking registration, sir.
What? I mean, I'm seeing one thing, you know, showing something
Look,
else.
that's your computer. All right, look, that's between you and your
No,
computer.
no, if you can't see it,
Islam.
then
Yeah,
wow, okay.
that's what we see too. That's what I was getting ready to say something. You got up there taking registration.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, let me go back in here and okay, all right. So I'm trying to figure out how I did it. Well, I went into, well, maybe. Okay, let's try. Okay, I'm gonna stop that and try to share again. I had this up. Okay, do you see anything that I'm sharing as of yet?
No. We see your picture.
Okay, but you don't see-
I was gonna say, yeah, we see a man in the feds, a Muslim in the feds right now.
We see.
Man, I'm telling.
Yeah, you
I'm
look
just
at
looking
it.
at my stuff
Handsome young
and
man.
so apparently, apparently, I'm not showing. I'm not. Hold on, let me go back in here. Let me try. Okay, I can't do this because that's there.
Take your time, Monster.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, this is. Okay, what about that? That ain't different? Oh, that's good?
That's good.
Yay. I appreciate that vote of confidence there, National Assistant Grand Chief. You know what I mean? You calm the ethers. Okay, all right. So yeah, so this is what I was trying to show them all. And so yeah, so I took this here from one of the charts that you sent us. And it appeared to be in the abjad order. So that's what I took it. I took it all the way to just the T, you know, and so, and I went to, I'm not gonna try to change screens just yet. I went to one of the last charts you sent us, which actually had these letters, well, not these. Yeah, it has these, well, I got this hieratic letter from maybe the same particular one, but I wrote it out. That was the difference. I wrote these out. So this was the A, this was the B, and this was the G and the D. And over here, just for example, I got these pens, these calligraphy pens, which enable you to kind of like do the letters in such a way that you can draw a thin line like that one, and make it thick around there. So I just tried it just for ha-ha, so to speak. and wrote this D in different form. And I was trying to perfect it. This is not the best one out of it from the chart that you gave us. And I know I have that chart, saved. So maybe I'll be able to go back and put it up, and so you can see the reference and where I'm coming from. But this was the ones from the initial one that you gave us. The M you can see is very pronounced. The N is, and then this is how I drew it with those pens. It made it a lot clearer. A lot of the letters, like you said, which I'll do going forward, is to group all of the different forms of the different letters, in a particular, like all of the A's that we have and all the different translator, all the different scripts and how they were brought forth. And I was going to do the Demotic, but then that was an extra work. I mean, not that I'm against the work, but it wasn't significant at this time. So I just wanted to just get all of the letters down in the hieratic form. And so this is how I'm beginning. So this is a work in progress, so to speak. And so, and if I could, okay, let me see if I can get back into that. Well, if I can get this one. Hey, I know you can't see. Can you see that? Islam?
No, we can't see anything.
Okay,
No,
so
sir, you went back to your other screen with your picture up there, your
Right.
avatar.
Okay, so if I can
Whatever
get
you were doing
to,
before, go back to that and reshare it. It's not.
okay, I think I'll probably have to, okay, if I can, okay, this is it here. But that's not being shared, right? No.
Right.
Okay, let me get
No,
back.
no, sir.
Now, if I can get to that part where I can, I know what I need to do. I need to bring up the, class. Okay, here it is right here. Okay, this is the class. And I need to say share the screen. And if I could go forth and can you see that now? Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this was the document that you sent us, the PDF that you sent us with the different letters, and this is where I try to grab some of them from. Like the G is much different. I need to have them side by side, but that's going to be at a later time. But this is my attempt. The D. Disregarding the hieroglyphs, but the hieratic letter forms. You know what I mean, and putting them next to my next to the next to the demonstration that I had at first. Can you see that? Okay, if you can see that, yeah. So those are the letters that I just showed you on that letter bright yellow background. That's why I picked up these letters here, and I will continue to bring them forth. And I'm gonna put them all on one document until I can either go into what is that other program? Microsoft program. I can go into there and put them all on one page, and I can switch back and forth from it. So, well, then anyway, just to show you that I'm working on it and making some progress, but it's a work in progress. And with that, I'm just gonna stop sharing and go back to give it back to you. So,
Islamism, grand man, we give honors to you for all the work that you do and everything that you will do and everything that you done. You know, at this particular juncture, you know, we know that there is no measure of dealing with what we would consider a right or wrong measure, you know, because we are most definitely coming through this drawing together. And I'm trying to get this chart up here to the Moors so that we can get a drawing just to refresh us on the concept of the abjad and relation to all of this. And honest to you, Moors. And this is all it is. You know, we going through these drawings, and this is actually what makes us familiar, you know, with these special alphabets. You see, right here, you know, going through, sifting through these measures. It's almost like demonstrating, you know, some form of scientific research. The only difference is we dissecting language, you know, instead of dealing with elements and atoms and all this type of stuff. So let me do this here. I'm gonna share this screen. I just want to make sure I got it visible enough for you all before I open this up. Okay, there we go. That should be good. And we're gonna go through this special measure dealing with a comparison. Honors to Sister Curta Bay and our beloved brother Marvin Elway. Let me ask, is my little computer showing the right thing? Can you see this abjad measure
It's
here?
on. It's on, yes, sir.
Okay, praise be to Allah. Okay, so what we have here, and we can see it well as we go through. These are different charts that we have. And what we want to mainly focus on right here is these particular letters here, you know, and understanding how they relate to these abjad charts. And we will also go into as well the different alphabets, you know, how we talked about putting them together. We're going to reiterate that again that we were speaking of to our sister Curta Bay. So here you have a good abjad order. You know, the only one that I ever seen when it come to dealing with, you know, what they would like to call the hieratic, you know, but we call it the herein KEMET, you know. Then they have, you know, the hieroglyph. You can also call hieratic metal netta, you know, but then they put these symbols here, which we don't pay no attention to because we look at them as markers. That's all they are. So if you come here and look at the abjad order, you will see that really there was no change except in certain aspects with the sound. For example, the A here. The A is A here, right? Now let's go to the Arabic chart, and it's a bunch of different, it's Hebrew, the Sabian, you know, the Lihianite, all these different scripts in the abjad order too. See the A, right? So A is what it is, right? We can see the same thing here. This is just really another chart showing the abjad with the numbers beside it. You know, so all is well for that too. This is another abjad chart that actually has the hieratic here. You see the same letter A in this one that you see over here thus far, right? That's what this particular chart, and the Moors had this because we sent it out to them. You also see the same letter here, B, in this chart that you see in this chart. You see? Okay. You got G here. When you come to this spot, you have a different G, you know, in writing. But what happens here, this is where we group this G with that G. We put them beside each other. You see what I'm saying? That's how you deal with that. And let me see here. You have the D here, right? That's the D there. Now, let's see what the D is here in this abjad. I need to blow that up a little bit too. It's kind of blurry a little bit. But if you look at this, it looks almost like that particular demonstration, but it's just a different style of writing it. You know, another form of writing it actually. So, you know, we can actually put those symbols beside each other in the abjad order. So you will write this along with that symbol on the side, like they're doing with these particular alphabets here. Only these are different alphabets. You just take all those symbols that are labeled D in each one of these different charts, you know, that deal with the hieratic language, and then you group them. You see, that hasn't been done yet. So in other words, we have that to do, that job, to bring clarity to the people.
Quick question,
So,
Governor.
go ahead, Grandman.
If I really, hope I'm not disrupting the class, because
No, you're all right.
now, because what's the name? Mustafa Gadala was talking about the Phoenicians, how they wanted to say the Phoenicians was, originator of this and that. But he was speaking of how the Phoenician was actually a group that came and say migrated to Egypt, and then they took on, they worked for the Egyptians, they took on all of the characteristics of the Egyptians, and the reason why I was bringing that up, because that letter of that D in that other chart looks even closer to
Yeah,
that
the
one,
Phoenician.
like that's one. Yeah.
The Phoenician. But
Yes, sir.
also in the way Mustafa Gadala said, me knowing it, because I done actually wrote out his alphabets on my own, that's actually close to what he say the letter D looked like too. So that's really a confirmation, with the style of writing that Mustafa Gadala spoke of as well. This particular symbol here looks similar to that, because you got to remember, these things, some of these symbols were taken from here. So you can look beside these things and see if the letter was far off from itself or they changed it a certain way. For example, you can actually see a similarity between the H here. Only difference is this has a little, look like a E with an extra line coming down from it, but that looked like a E, but facing, in a fence-like manner, so to speak. You see, look like this symbol of the dot. You can see a relation between that, which is, you can see the same relation between the M here. You see what I'm saying? And he describes the different forms of letters that were used even in the Egyptian writing modes, which I have in my hand right now. So, all of these things are good and well to also go into, looking forward to dealing with these letters and so forth and so on. But strictly sticking to the hieratic, I'm mainly speaking of when you go into the hieratic and you see a different symbol in that hieratic chart, then you go back and you compare that hieratic. Now, as far as the Phoenicians are nothing more than those who actually descend from the Kushite Empire, the Mesopotamians, the Assyrians, all of them really one group of people, even though they give different names to them. These come from, in the biblical narrative, they would say the seed of Nimrod, so to speak. We say Nimrod because that's the oldest, biblically, that they refer to when it comes to dealing with the Kushite Empire. Remember, it was the Tower of Babel that was supposed to be built by Nimrod, that all the languages were dispersed later on. You see? So when you go there, you understand that Cush was the seed of Ham, which is really Cam. You see, that word Cam was actually preserved in what they like to call Hebrew, but it's really Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite. It's C-H-A-M. So you can see the relation to the language and the relation to this, just like shalom and salam between Arabic and the Hebrew language, as they like to call it, Assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum. So what we are looking at is different eras, like the Sister Curta Bay was saying, possibly, and also different styles of writing and so forth and so on, but sticking to the hieratic, because we don't want to get sidetracked by going into any of the other scripts. We can look at them to see if there's a connection. Nothing wrong with that, but we want to mainly stay focused on this hieratic script, so we get a drawing. So yeah, you take this hieratic script and not only comparing it to this particular, because the Moors actually have this too. We sent this out to the Moors a few moons ago. But you can look at it and compare all these different things. And when you see something that's given a different sign, again, just group it. Just group it in the abjad order that you have. And then coming here, this is another chart here that has, an expression of the hieratic and the demotic. And you see they even have an expression of the A here. They got the L here. You know, and they got a whole bunch of different symbols here where they actually group a bunch of different forms of writing certain things. They got 2 ways of writing these measures here, 2 ways of writing it there. Now, and that's just 2 styles of writing, what I'm seeing here, you know, in this area here. You know, so these are the things that we look at. And also, well, they don't really do it here, so we ain't got to say that. But see, like here, for example, this is a hieratic S right here. Go back up. See this hieratic S at the bottom of the screen here? Look at the symbol of it. When you look at all of that right there in and of itself, you can see that the hieratic, and you can go to the Session MetaNet site to see the fullness of it, because this is a little chopped up right here. But nevertheless, let me see, I might be able to pull this up real quick. There you go, I just had to pull my screen up. So you see these 3 different forms of that. You know, so that's something that we should write in our own group beside each other. This right here, this hieratic letter S here, you know, because this one is actually S and Z between each other. And that's something to be noted, because that goes back to our particular chart up here, where I was saying everything is in the same abjad order as we spoke. But I want to point this out. When you get past the A, B, G, and the D, notice they put the here, right? And all they're doing in the Arabic is really grouping the letters that sound the same. You see, they grouping certain letters that are close. The, right? But when you come back up here, you see hey in this particular order, which would actually be right if you go into the regular abjad order. You see? See, it says hey right here. You see? So now let's compare this. Just dealing with this chart alone. Hey, hey, right? And I'm gonna go back through this in a second with Mustafa Gadala. Vol, now let's go back up here. See, they have Vol, which is coming after hey. See the V, but there's an F here. So we should keep that in mind as a mental note, that Vol is like fall, fall, Vol, fall. That actually shows you how to pronounce it. You see what I'm saying? To pronounce this V, which is also equated sometimes with W. Voir, voir, voir. You see? So coming here again to the other chart, we see Zion. When we come up here, they have Zion here, but they also have, you know, an expression dealing with TCH and T, but it's not pronounced the way that one would look at it. You know, like let's say logs. So that's where they mixing that sound in there. You know, so this is the way they put that together. So when you come here, you have K, but then you have an X. So this X is meant to be the last sound in the letter X. X. You see? X. X. And that's what a K is coming from. Like lock. You see? Now let's come over here. So what you see here, cat. See? See the relation to it? Cat. Okay. So then when you come here, you have th, right? Let's go to the other chart. They have tet in this special area. You see? Tet. Tet. The end form of the tet. You see it right here? Go back here. There it is. But this is this hieratic letter. Now keep it in mind, going down here, right? Now, let's deal with the next letter. This is why I'm telling you this is in proper abjad order. We're able to vet it and check it. So what we see now is yod behind that. We know Y is interchangeable with 2 letters. It became the J in the so-called English and the Latin, right? But I is also there. That's why sometimes you'll see them spell the name Jesus as Isos or Jesus, you know, so to speak, right? And we say Yehoshua, Yeshua. You see, because the I is interchangeable with the J and the Y. You see? So we see this is in abjad order. Every letter has checked out right. The only difference is variations according to the expression of the language thus far. Let us keep going on and deal with the root 22. So kaf, right? You have kaf here, right? So let's go back here. Okay, we see that's K. So that kaf that's expressed as C here is K. And actually they have a K beside it too. You see? You see the numeric value and everything, right? Now let's go back up here. Now we have the letter L, which will be here. It looks like a L too, a little stylish L, as a matter of fact. Don't look like it changed much. But then when you come to the letter L, it's lambda. See L here? Now these are totally different charts. This is why I was telling you, anytime you find a chart with the abjad there, it's basically almost like the DNA. It exposes whether or not the chart was changed. You know, and we can see this chart remain the same because these two different charts written by two different people that probably didn't have no knowledge of each other, but yet and still they are keeping the abjad order. We got this abjad is key to giving us the proper understanding, because when we see a symbol on the side of the abjad, we say, okay, now let's place all those symbols there. And this is how we was able to find the demonic, me and the brother Edwards Bay. When we went through it, put it together, we didn't have all the resources with all the lessons, you know, with everything that was showing what we came across. But when we finally come across all the resources, it dropped on us from on high, so to speak. We found that we was correct in every letter that we demonstrated. But this is the methodology that we are using. You see, it's the methodology that we are using. So come here. This is the letter M, dealing with the hieratic abjad, right? Let's go back to what they like to call the Hebrew. We call it Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite, and all of that. They also have the Arabic here alongside it as well. So this would be a more reliable, proper context of dealing with the abjad in its order here, if you want to have the Arabic, you know, the knowledge of the Arabic in the abjad. So here, okay, you have mem here. So we see the mem is also present here. We see the letter N here. Those of us who are already familiar, have read some of Mustafa Gadala's measures, we are already familiar with the abjad order just from that particular standpoint. So here it is, the letter N behind the letter M. You see, we see the alphabet here, we see the M. The M also looked like, and we spoke on this before, like it really still remains the same. Only difference is in hieratic, it looks like a 3. But if you turn that 3 into a horizontal position, it becomes the letter M. You see what I'm saying? So some of these letters actually retain their likeness even when they come into the English language. That's powerful in and of itself to be able to see that. You see? So also Semek. This is the letter here. Semek. This is a letter S. You know, they have different S's that are there. See here? The S is coming behind that. Symbol of this S, it looks, don't confuse it with the N and the abjad. You can see this is more like a squiggly line. This one is more straight with a little loop coming off the end, a slight loop here, right? But then we come here, back to the abjad again, Ain, right? This has always been more of a symbol than anything, especially in the Arabic. You know, this is equated with the Egyptian, they put it in line with A. See the Ain here, and they actually have a line on the top. So you see it here, the symbol in the hieratic they give here. So this would be the chart you want to go off of and put every other hieratic letter that is said to be, you know, the letter A or B beside this in your comparison. You see? Because we can see this one is trustworthy as far as the abjad is concerned. You see? So let us go back here. We have pay. Pay, right? We can see this is actually interchangeable with the letter F in the Arabic though. Fay and pay P, pay, and fade, pay. They are interchangeable with each other. So what happens up here? We have pay, same thing. We see the symbol in the hieratic here. Now we have that snake sound, so to speak, right? Let us see what this is when we go back to the proto-Sinaitic chart. See, sade, zade. The T and the Z is the sound here, even though they call it sade. See the T and the Z here? So what we are finding is that, oh, they're directly on point. Then we have Q here, right? The letter Q. Let us go back to the chart. Quaff, the letter quaff. The way they are pronouncing this, quaff. That's how that is. In Arabic is the way they can pronounce it as well. That's the letter quaff, which is Q in Arabic. I know this for a fact, but they use a K to pronounce the sound. Sometimes you will find certain Hebrew charts, a proto-Sinaitic chart, where they actually put the Q there. But they just trying to give you the proper sound, because the way they write it out gives you the ability to express it, so to speak. Okay, so now we come here. We got the letter R. Let us go back to the chart. Resh, see, it's still the same. Then let us go to Shin then. Okay, there it is. And we see the S with an almost downward pointing arrow, without the perpendicular line attached to it. So if you see this letter, it's pronounced as sh. If you see it in any transliteration, you see, and you can see that sh is actually still real relative to the Coptic. If you were to look at the Coptic S, it looks just like this, but it got a little loop that come around on it, right? Now watch this. When we go back to this chart, look at the letter Shin. You see the same letter here. It got the little lines on it. Only difference is it got 3 different dots on here to pronounce the H in the Shin. So this letter Shin, is actually preserved through the Arabic and the Hieratic, we can see, and the Coptic. So it pretty, and it also is similar in the Demotic. So that Shin pretty much goes across the spectrum of all the languages that we done dealt with thus far. Even what they could want to call Greek, because Greek is really Coptic. And last but not least, the last letter, tall. Let's go back here to the abjad. See, tall. So what we see is, a strong relation between this comparative table of the alphabet in here, and we see the abjad is intact. So all we have to do is take this particular abjad here, and then we will, again, any other symbols that are mentioned to be that are not as these are, we place those symbols beside this. You see what I'm saying? Just like I did with the Demotic language. I did it with the Demotic the same way because of this purpose. And that's what we're going to, it also impress these things upon our consciousness. And so, yeah, when you come here, they have slight, see, I was telling you about the Q and all that in the Arabic, but you can see the F here, a lot of this stuff here, you can see, the alphabet is still the same. They go your yod and your K, your lam, your mem, your noon. All this is the same abjad order. You see, that's that wall that I was talking about, interchangeable with va or fa, So za, so they all are here, family. The resh, the sha, the ta, it is here. Abjad order just dealing with the Arabic. And these are the actual scripts beside it. This is their proper abjad order. Here, Mustafa Gadala actually have some of these scripts in the Egyptian writing modes. You see? So any other letter, when you come here, and you see a hieratic, write that on the side, of the letter that you see in this primary chart. We're going to call this the primary chart here. You see? And you just write every other letter that seems to be an A on the side of this letter A, seem to be a B on the side of this B, G, D, and so forth and so on. But we can rest and assure that this is indeed an abjad order of the hieratic language, which proves through the DNA, the ABGD, that it is connected, is whole and intact, so to speak. And as long as we utilize that, you know, it helps us in a tremendous way, a great way. And so everything else we can tack along in other charts. That's the thing that we can do on our own as well. You know, look up and find as many hieratic charts that you can find and compare them. Take all of those letters that may be seeming to be different and put them on the side of here. So when we begin to transliterate certain things, we can fall back on those extras, you know, that are said to be those letters. You know, so that's just what I wanted to express briefly to our Moorish kin so that they have some clarity. I love this abjad. And just one more thing before I go forward. In the book of Mustafa Gadal, and he have it in most of his books dealing with language, he has the abjad in front. He has Aleph, and I'm reading from his book as I go down these letters here. He has Bait, he has Jim, he has Dal, he has He, he has Wa or Vo, you see, there it is. He has Zain, we see it here. He has Het, he has Het, but it's really Het, like saying it, pushing the K out with the H. That's what I'm talking about. X, right? So then he has Ta, which is ta, pushing that H and that T out together. Then you have Yad in his chart, which is synonymous with, remember, Y is interchangeable with the I. Then he has Kaf. That's right, K. Lam, right? Mim he has. Nun he has. Sin he has, right? Now this is Mustafa Gadala book just being compared to this particular measure here, which means he kept the abjad properly. He was precise with his keeping of the abjad. We can see this here. Let us proceed on. Ain, you see here, he has fat. Remember I told you the F is interchangeable with the P. You see, because some of these letters didn't carry over into other languages to a certain degree. You see what I'm saying? Oh, it's really based on who's writing it, because some people would put a letter F in a particular alphabet, depending on who the author is. You see, that's just like some that didn't want to put the letter L and say it wasn't no letter L in the Kemetic language, but you see it right here in the Hieratic. You see, which is sometimes interchangeable with the letter R. So you'll see these two letters that were combined beside each other, that R and that letter L right there. You'll see that demonstrated that way. And so again, let us continue. After the letter Phi, which is pi, you have S, and the brother Mustafa Gadala used it as Sad, you see, which is the Arabic way of saying it actually. Then he has the Qaf here. See it here? Then he has the Re, or the Ra here, right? Then he has the Sheen here, right? Then he has the Ta here. Now what you see behind this, you have Tha, Ka, Dal, Dad, Za, and Gain. All of these are basically, this is based off of, if you look at the alphabets in this book, you know, these are how people end up adding certain measures on to their language. So the abjad is rooted in 22 letters, but then you have those who may add on extra letters, and that's what this 28 is coming from, you see? And then when you go into the Arabic language, in the dictionary of the Quran, they match perfectly with the abjad that Mustafa Gadala has here. So we can see he was going off of the Arabic abjad. He added a couple of more letters in here, and that's where the 28 come from. You know, the 28 also deal with the stations of the moon. You know, the 28, you know, has, you know, many different measures dealing with the lunar cycles and so forth and so on. And so that's where that comes into play, dealing with Tehudi and so forth and so on. So, yeah, we just wanted to point it out, you know, so that our Moorish kin get that in mind, because it's going to be necessary that we go there. And I hope this was helpful by me going through that for our Moorish kin. So is there any other more that have a grand measure to be brought forth from our Father's treasures. Islam. All right.
Islam, Islam.
Brother Torres, I knew Rasul Simpson Bay pardon himself, brother.
Islam,
Gratitude.
Islam. Islam, family, yes, indeed. Dr. Torre, New Rasul Simpson Bay, National Assistant Grand Chairman of March America. Let's rise and give all praise to our Father God Allah and honor to our Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and honor to everything that is Moorish, Islam. Well, Moorish Ken, some grand measures on the manifest today, as always. And I want to go to, let's see here. Boom. All right. Well, we have it. So, actually in support of everything that was brought forth, Dr. Diane Carter Bay, Dr. Marvin Edwards Bay, and also our National Assistant Grand Sheik of March America. This actually leads right into what I wanted to bring on the manifest. And it's basically applying the abjad order to the heretic writing system. And real briefly, let's see here. There we go. So as Dr. Shahid just mentioned, we're looking at the abjad, Moorish Ken, and of course coming from Mustafa Gudala when it comes to the correct abjad. And yes, as Dr. Shahid just mentioned about the 28 letters in the original abjad, and why do they come about? And it reads here, it says, actual Egyptian 28 abjad letters are indicated in capitals. Non-capital letters are inserted to help English-speaking people pronounce the Egyptian words. So when we see this, this is why we can see, say, an uppercase A and a lowercase a in the heretic during the whole inquisition of the Europeans or the Platonic period. And this could be, it's a theory. It says also when two letters are underlined together in the Roman script, they represent one sound. For example, TH sounds like th. And like I said, our National Sister Grand, she just went over that as well. And it says an underlined letter followed by a dot indicates an Egyptian letter close to the English sound of such a letter. As also Dr. Shahid just went over when it came to Zayn and the A sound, and a couple of more, the T and the H, the TH also sound like DH. And it goes on to say three Egyptian letters, A, W, and Y are weak consonants that each can be, the IE is that each can be pronounced as a consonant or a vowel sound depending on the word and its context, which of course, Dr. Shahid went over that as well when he was comparing the letters in the different abjad scripts, Islam. So we move forward. So I titled this particular slide here, Miseducation of the Moorish. And it goes on to say that, this is comparison. So Mustafa Gudala, he says in 1.1, it says the hieroglyphic smoke screen. It says the biggest smoke screen in history is concealing the ancient Egyptian alphabetical writing system. And it says Western Egyptologists made everyone think of the Egyptian language as a collection of primitive pictures called hieroglyphics. They concealed the Egyptian, let me see, it's saying I get cut off, but it says they concealed the Egyptian abjad. When you go to the book, the writing system or the creation letter cycle, the creation of the letter cycle. And it goes on. So basically, when you look at Alan Gardner, which this is a so-called Egyptologist, European, and definitely we always hammer that in, that, to be aware of this European mindset, as Dr. Shahid has also put forward, and as we've seen him demonstrate with YouTube measures, dialogues, and also here in our class. And it says that Alan Gardner, in his book, Egyptian Grammar, he tried to rationalize how they concealed the Egyptian alphabetical system. So when I read that, that means that this system, once again, is way before the hieroglyphics. And also that lets me know that the letters existed before the actual pyramids. So it goes on to say in his book, Egyptian Grammar, Gardner writes, Egyptologists have experienced the practical need of adopting. So when I look at a practical need of adopting some common standard, well, they don't know. It's the remix of the abjad, of the original abjad, because this is what, like we say, to throw one off course. So it says it's common to adopt, need of adopting a common standard to which different hieratic hands could be reduced, and instead of selecting one simple style of hieratic for, I don't know why they cut that off. Like I said, matter of fact, hold on. Because I don't like the way they cut that off, Morris Ken. There we go. Yeah, so let me go here. There we go. Gotcha. So it says that right at the bottom, it says that Egyptologists have experienced the practical need of adopting some common standard to which different hieratic hands could be reduced. So this word reduced, they want to, this is a remix. Once again, this is their input or their determinative. They want to determine what is meant by, well, the letters, or they want to change it up. Now we go on, it says that it could be reduced, and instead of selecting one simple style of hieratic for the purpose, have preferred to transcribe all hieratic hands into hieroglyphic. And so we see that right there. That's the remix, and that's taken ones off course as we see today. Islam. Next slide. And once again, this is just support of the abjad that we use coming from Mustafa Gadala. We use this abjad because it's correct to help us to take the letters into a higher vibration of more science. Islam. So the further investigation, I can see that Mustafa Gadala says in 1.2, the ancient Egyptian alphabetical form of writing, the most eminent authority on languages. His name is Isaac Taylor. In his book, History of the Alphabets. So right here, I can see that Mustafa Gadala actually, he honors what this Europeans bring forth, because he said it's the most eminent, authority on languages, Isaac Taylor. And he says in volume 1 of this book, Isaac Taylor, he says that the immensely early date at which symbols of alphabetic nature are found on the Egyptian monuments is a fact of great interest and importance. It is of great interest in as much as it constitutes the starting point in the history of the alphabet, establishing the literal truth of the assertion that the letters of the alphabet are older than the pyramids, older probably than any other existing monument of human civilization. So when I read this excerpt from this book, this letting me know that this goes back to when we say time never was when man was not, Islam. And it goes on to say that Mustafa Gadala, on again referencing the history of alphabets, it says that Isaac Taylor in his book, History of the Alphabets, volume 1, page 64, wrote about King Sent, in whose reign the alphabetic characters were already in use, maybe taken to have lived between 4000 and 4700 BCE, before Common Era. Startling as the result of such calculations may appear, it must be affirmed to be probable that the beginning of the graphic art in the Valley of the Nile must be relegated to a date of 7,000 or 8,000 years from the present time. Once again, it just supports that this writing has, or letters, or this abjad has been, well, one would say time never was when man was not. And this abjad is that we use from Mustafa Gudala in his research, and along with the other writing scripts that was brought forth by Dr. Shedo Menti, that this is the correct way to go. Because of the fact that it goes on to say that it is very clear that the ancient Egyptian alphabetical language was the first in the world thousands of years prior to much ado about nothing, what they say, the Sinai scripts. But it also goes on to read that in this book here, it talks about how the letters would be, as we were speaking about the Tower of Babel, it goes on to talk about that as well. But for more so, this research that I'm bringing forth is support of the abjad, and it's the way to go. So we go on, it says the British Egyptologist Alan Gardner, because this Alan Gardner, he also have a code system, and I'll show you this code system that also comes from the Hieratic, the KEMET, that website. However, moving forward, it says no less salient a characteristic of the language is its concision. The phrases and sentences are brief and to the point. Involved constructions and lengthy periods are rare, though such are found in some legal documents. The vocabulary was very rich. The clarity of Egyptian is much aided by a strict word order. For Pythoness of proverbs, oracles, and sentences, no language can parallel with it. So right there, when this British Egyptologist said, Alan Gardner says this, the vocabulary was very rich. The clarity of Egyptian is much aided by a strict word order. This goes back to my support of the abjad that we use is just and correct. And he actually mentioned it. He gave a little truth in there. He gave a little bit of truth in that. So, however, we move forward to the next excerpt I have right here. It says the Egyptians dissolved their language into a syllabary and had an alphabetical order into which lists were sometimes arranged. So when I'm looking at this, the Egyptians dissolved their language into a syllabary and had an alphabetical order into which lists were sometimes arranged. Even then, we know that, well, when you say dissolve their language, this word dissolve is key to when we talk about syllabary, because this is now we're able to talk about the T, the H. We're able to put, we put the words together like meta, netter, things of that nature. We start to build synthesis, just like he just said. Over here, it says, for Pythoness of proverbs, oracles, and sentences, no language can parallel with it. So now we move forward. It says, the fact of the matter is that the order of the ancient Egyptian alphabet was the abjad sequence. The Hebrews followed, which we just saw that as well, follow this sequence, and the Arabs, we just seen that in the Arabic writing script. It says only in the 10th century changed the abjad sequence through a childish reshuffling of the abjad sequence. More details can be found in the ancient Egyptian universal writing modes by Mustafa Gudala. And it says it should be also noted that in the early history of modern Egyptology, 2 centuries ago, scholars followed the abjad sequence are working on Egyptian monuments, such as the work done on Rosetta Stone. So this right here, listening to what we already know, I don't think this is not just and correct, the Rosetta Stone. And Dr. Shahi, you can help me out on that because I'm not, I don't have it up in front of me. Later on, it says later on they ignored it for the haphazardly created sequence. It was an intentional confusion so that nobody would notice the obvious, that ancient Egyptian letter forms are the archetypal of letter forms for all languages, Islam. So here, I just wanted to bring about the letter A, the abjad comparison to Gardner code. And when I say comparison, what we're doing, I should have said cross-referencing and exposing or showing my Moorish kin that, of course, we have the letter A, and then we know that's Aleph or Hamza, a numerical value of 1. And also, we see that as well in the creation and fall of man. And we also see it because when we look up Aleph and Hamza, I didn't place it in here, but you're looking at it, it says it's talking about a seed. Also, you see that, of course, in Act 1, and also Atam, which means represents the one or the first existent. However, now when we go over here to the Gardner G code, let me see here, the Gardner G code for the letter A. And if you go to the Hieratic, let me see here. If you go to the website that Dr. Shaheed had given us, the Sheshmet, I think, you'll see in there, you will see that that actual G code G1 deals with the African vulture. So it has this, so once again, it has this hieroglyph up there, and it has the African vulture. And it's coded, and this code is G1. So this is their, when I see this is their so-called way of saying that the Hieratic comes from the hieroglyphs. And this G1 code, category 1.7, code G1, G is the category of birds, and then the 1 is the Egyptian vulture. You can see this on the website. So what I did was, Morris Kane, so what I did was I go to the next. And so I just wanted to when it comes to the letter A. So when we see the letter A, and of course, like I say, we have Aleph and the Hieratic in this proper form. This is the A, but this would be. Let me see. Can I pull it up here? Let me see here. Let me stop sharing just to show more can. So, like I said, this is the proper abjad. Before I go to the next slide, this is the correct abjad for the letter A when it comes to the abjad sequence that's also given to us by Mustafa Gudala. And also when we talk about the history or the ancient essence of the alphabet being the correct abjad from time immemorial, and we see the Hieratic, this Hieratic script is already in abjad order, then we're able to jump over to, let me stop sharing this. Let's see. So if I go, let me see, go here, share. All right, so there we go. If we go here, not the way, not the way. Try to get this out the way here. Okay, there we go. Outstanding. So there we go. So we go here and we can see, of course, this is a comparison when we talk about the letter A, which this would be a uppercase, A. All right, and then this is the lowercase. So therefore we see that this letter, that this is the capital and this is the lowercase a, but on this special, what I just showed before, it doesn't have the lowercase a beside it. So this is just something I noticed as well. And last but not least, let's see here. Go to the top. And I'll show you what I was talking about, Morris King, when it talks about the G code or the G, the code, the Gardner code. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. One more time. No, that's not it. Give me one sec. Let's see. It might be at the bottom. Let's see. I'm gonna try one more. Let's see. There we go. No, not that. That's going deeper into it. This shit right here. This shit right there. All right. All right. So right here, we see that the letter A is, it says the vulture. So it says MDC, Budge, Henning, Allen, Gardner. So Gardner, this is Gardner's, I would say this is his determinative on the letter A. And also we have here the G, the Gardner code. So that when I saw this, the Gardner code being G1, I hit on it like this. And this is, and it comes up to Wikipedia. And so we go down to birds. So it says 1.7 G birds, and boom, you see that G1 is, this is the, so whenever you see the G, when it comes to Gardner, and that code starts with a G, is dealing with birds. And it's kind of like going into what we also talked about, the Unicode. So with all that being said, Morriskin, this was just research confirming that the abjad, the original abjad, is definitely on point, that National Sister Grand Sheikh brought to us, and also coming from Mustafa Gudala from his research. And so with that being said, that was what I wanted to bring forth as far as my research and dealing with the abjad. And like I said, I have more things, but Dr. Shahid, really, you covered it when you was talking about all the scripts and going back and forth. So gratitude, family, peace and love.
Islam, gratitude, brother, peace and love, Islamism. And this is what I would like to point out in that especial area as well, because like I was saying before, we know Gardenia has a whole list dealing with the animals and the birds and all that he tried to attach to letters. However, like I said, to us, those are nothing more than markers, because they were created after the hieratic itself, you see. And so what we see is in those other letters that you showed there, which we showed as well, those would be different forms of the letter A, outside of the pictorial, aspect that he tried to add in right there. That's their rationalizing what they think the letter A is in the form of what they see around them. You understand? And so we don't want our people to go off into that particular area and think we're trying to decipher symbols again, because we're dealing strictly with the script, but a grand drawing being brought on the manifest. Thing is, we working with what is already here, and the damage has already been done. So you always hear me talking about damage control. And this is one of those cases we definitely got to be on our job when it comes to damage control, because the same thing was done with each and every other letter. But the main key is, like you pointed out, the abjad mention. And for those who, if you don't have this book, you got to get it. Mustafa Gudala, Egyptian Universal Writing Modes, because this actually goes into the rules that we were speaking of here, the unwritten rules, but they actually written here, but in the writings that the European had brought forth previously dealing with these scripts. And for example, in chapter 13, he speaks of the sound divergence of world alphabets from its Egyptian origin. This is very important because we actually went through some of the examples of sound divergence when we were showing the comparison between that chart that you had, because I had went through it and compared that to the actual chart that had the other hieratic in it. And you can see the relation to them automatically. Like we said, we know that's the way to go. It's just taking those other forms of the alphabet and put them on the side of it that they are calling A's and B's and so forth. So that ain't a hard task at all. It's going deep into the language, and it's going to impress it in our consciousness even more. So he says here, the brother said there are basically two factors that have caused variant dialects, languages of the world from its original one world language. See, this is going back to that Tower of Babel demonstration. All languages breaking off, most of them have to be a connection of dialectal differences, so to speak. You know, it's not really much of a difference between them, you see? So it says, being the ancient Egyptian, the writing variations of the letter forms and their orientations, number one. Number two, systematic sound variations, which we went through. It states in the previous chapter, we showed the divergence in the writing of the original Egyptian letter forms. In this chapter, we discussed the sound divergence of world alphabets from their Egyptian origin. Now, this is real key right here, because one of these things we have heard throughout the years, and I'm gonna point it out once I go through these forms, because he actually showed you which letters, just like we went through it through the abjad, he showed you which letters are interchangeable and how they change throughout the time. And this is page 165 that I'm coming from. It says, the systematic sound variation, sound shifts. It says, from the earliest days of comparative philology, it was noticed that the sounds of related languages corresponded in apparently systematic ways. The most famous of these sound shifts were worked out by Jacob Grimm. That's where they come up with the Grimm's law concepts and all that stuff. It says in 1822, and that became known as Grimm's law. So anyway, it says, notice how the European, as we have constantly seen throughout this research, they name these particular sciences as themselves. This is where the usurpation takes place at. This is where the superimposition or the imposing of their so-called quote unquote founding of a thing comes into play at. That's how they move the goalposts, fam. So it says the circular relationship between these correspondences is a major feature. So he begins to show the relation between the G, the K, and X. We just spoke on that earlier. We can remember when we were dealing with the Demotic language, also the Arabic, when we were dealing with these rules, we discussed this. The interchangeable measures, G and H, G, G, G. You can see the relation to that K. You see, then you have G. So it's G, K, X, G, H, and G. All of these are in the same family. You see what I'm saying? This can also account for, now that I'm thinking of it, some of those express words that seem to be different in the hieratic language. You see, and we probably will find this along the way as we go throughout our measures. In comparison with these charts, it's probably where certain people were dealing with the GH instead of the letter G. And those who knew the letter G dealt with that symbol as it was, and then they dealt with the GH as it comes. And then that's where you have these seem differences, but it's really not a real difference at all. It has to do with a change in the pronunciation dealing with the dialectal expression of this word. So this G goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stages of morphology, so to speak, pardon self. But then you have K up under that, KH, K, KH, you know, still returning to its root, showing that this is the dominant letter, because it still ends up coming into KH, just like G still end up being G. But this G is not expressed as a normal G is expressed. You hear a K sound with the G, gah, 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 gah. You see, gah. So also T, then it has the TH beside that. We seen that as I was going through the abjad, where Mustafa Gadala used the term ta, but then it was TH in the other chart. You see what I'm saying? And as in thin. So it's like you pushing it out. So then you have DH, because we know the T is interchangeable with the D. So we automatically know that rule. So yeah, we can place the T there in place of this. This is why you see, let's use a prime example. In the word Tehudi, then you will see it spelled sometime Jehudi. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so this is dealing with the morphology according to who's basically dealing with these letters. So certain charts place J, whether, and a J is also added, and even though they don't have it here, sometimes J and D and J is together. Sometimes it will be as that way. And then you have the D and the T, they show that here, the relation. These are simple rules that we now have embedded in us just by going through the language. We can already see this. So then it has, we spoke of this earlier, P and F. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of this stuff I learned just by dealing with the languages itself and not really looking for the rules. It's already there. You know, you figure it out basically. So P and F, and they actually put P and H together. Fat, which would like Phoenician. You see, like Phoenician. And that's what a P and the F, where I was saying you're trying to push that P and that F out at the same time. Fat, fat. And that's why you see the change between them. Then they also deal with pat. If you do it, pat, pat, you see B and A, pat, 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 you see, which is B and P. So they're showing, you know, the germination and the relation of these two letters, so to speak. Now, this is the one I was talking about that most of us are familiar with. The word M being interchangeable with the N. I think even in the early Latin script, they actually had a relation between N and M being interchangeable, if I'm not mistaken. But I do know M and N has always had a relation to each other. And, you know, they often said, well, you know, one other line added onto the aspect of the N and the M is what made the M distinguished from the other, just like W in the letter V. You know, the W is really two V's. You know, that's why they say it is often interchangeable between itself. Now, this one beneath this, we are very familiar with this. This is something I want to really point out too. The M often becomes the B. Now, this is important. Let's find out one example where we found this at. In the teachings of Islam, it speaks of the name Mecca as the holy city. But in the Piscean records, they tell you it was known as Becca. So we see the change between the M and the letter B. You see, which I've been dealing with that for years, but it gets deeper because you hear them talking about Berber, right? This is the name Berber. They like to try to refer to the Moors as, and corrupted later in meaning, they means barbarian, nomadic people. But in Kemet, there's a word that actually goes back to the word Berber, but it has to do with pyramid. You see? Also, it's interchangeable with what we say murmur. So murmur, and some of our Moors may have seen that, that connects back to the Mari root, the word mur or mir, murmur. You see? So that B is interchangeable with the letter M. Like I said, go back to the Becca Mecca demonstration, you know, because that's how you find Mecca in the Piscean records. It's called Becca, even rooted in the name Rebecca. That also goes back to Ba and Ka. You see? The Ba being what? The spiritual soul, and the Ka being the actual soul. You see? So that's just a key right there. I know most of our Moors can. And they also showed an interchangeable measure between B and V in certain cases. There's a morphology, you know, in regards to dealing with the dialect that goes there as well. So they went back to the D and the T as well, such as we find the name Muhammad being pronounced Mehmet in Turkish. Correct, correct. And that's what I was showing them ones when I was showing them the picture of the brother, Dr. Fuad Mehmet, you know, where we found, you know, the real picture of Fuad Muhammad Mehmet Muhammad, you know, Fuad Mehmet Bey, and then they had the word Bey at the end, which deal with master. So we found this, and the NOI got upset with us because they want their God to be a mystery God, which is they say he's a man, you know, but I'm just getting into the aspect of dealing with different expressions of the name. So the D is interchangeable with the T, is what we're getting here. Also, there has a change between GI being exchanged with DI. You see? So we need to keep that in mind as well. And H may be added or dropped at the end of a word. So it ain't necessary to put, you know, the H at the end, because at that point, the H is most likely silent anyway. Anytime you put an H at the end of a word, it's basically unheard. It ain't really, you know, it's faint. You see? And so let's see, you have S, which is used which may be used instead of SH. So there's an interchangeable measure dealing with that. And then we have W, which may be G, TH, and F. He's showing some morphology here. You know, and then last but not least, he has W may be V, which we discussed earlier. You know, then he has the, which is the T and H as in 3, may be F in certain aspects. So, you know, this brother really went into examples of this. He says, as an example of this phenomenon of sound shift, and person's name can be still recognized in vastly different sounds, such as Santiago, San Diego, you see, San Jacob, Saint James, Jacob, Jack, Jaquez. I learned this right here, and James, when I was reading the book, Second Messiah, and it was speaking about Jaquez Demolay. And it was talking about James, you know, being one of the ones amongst Yehoshua, and they went into all the breakdown into Jacob and all this stuff here, showed how Jaquez and the Jacob measure come into play, and they started talking about the Jacobites. You know what I mean? So we don't know, but all this morphology and germination in words, you know, that certain things are relating to each other, and they are relative to each other to a certain degree. It said another example, a simple example is Michael. Then you have Mikael. Then you have Miguel. You see, so it's showing you the change between the CH, the KH, and the GU that's being used here in between these. And then it also says Mick with the QAL, Mikiel. It say, which despite being the same name varies only in one sound in the middle of the name. One can imagine that a variation in 2 or even more sounds in the same word name will make the change in name of the word sound like a totally different name or word. In addition to the numerous variations of sound shifts, many people have tendencies to reverse the letters, consonants, or vowels of a word. As a result, we end up with what appear to be totally different words. And this is the phenomenon between the more, the mar, the mir, and the mari measures that you hear me saying. This is all dealing with sound shifting. That's all it is. But it goes back to where this sound divergence of the world alphabet from its ancient Egyptian origin, the Kemetic roots. So there's a sound shifting process, you know, that has to do with, you know, certain sequences, so to speak, or how one places the letter there, what one chooses to use. Wanted to point that out to our Moorish king. We also have another point to be made here. Since we're talking about the Abjad earlier. The brother was speaking here, dealing with the languages. And he was talking about the false identification of the ancient Egyptian vocalic language as being Arabic. You know, he spoke and he said the forms of the Semitic letters were not derived from the monumental hieroglyphics, but from the ancient Egyptian cursive hieratic. The Ra-Im KEMET is what we call it, right? See, this is our best friend right here, Mustafa Gadala's Egyptian writing modes. We can go through these things in context that we have the charts before us, and it makes it all more plain. So it goes on, he says, when it comes to the vocalic system of Arabic, vis-a-vis, he says, ancient Egyptian vocalic system, it is also worth repeating the British Egyptologist, Alan Gardiner. It says in his book, Egyptian Grammar, page 3, see what he's doing? He's taking their own stick and he's beating them with it, basically. It says the entire vocalic system of old Egyptian may indeed be proved to have reached a state resembling that of Hebrew or modern Arabic. It says, when it comes to the rest of the linguistic pillars of etymology, grammar, syntax, etc., later languages such as Arabic are nothing more than an exact copy of the ancient Egyptian alphabetical language, which we showed you in regards to dealing with the 28 alphabets that he has it, and then you compare that to the Arabic. And we told our family that the Egyptian Arabic dictionary is that proof for that. So we connecting books coming from different people. This is what we call consensus of scholarship, family. Books that don't even really relate to each other per se, but they all are a key to uniting, our understanding and consciousness of what it is that we are taking in. So it says, when it comes to the rest of the linguistic pillars of etymology, grammar, syntax, etc., later languages such as Arabic are nothing more than an exact copy of the ancient Egyptian alphabetical language. Affinities and characteristics of the ancient Egyptian language, as described by Egyptologist Alan Gardiner in his book, Egyptian Grammar on page 2, he stated, and I quote, "The Egyptian language is related not only to the Semitic tongues, which we just proved with the so-called Hebrew or the Proto-Sinaitic chart, through the abjad, it says Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, Babylonian, etc., but also to the East African language, Gala, Somali, and the Berber idioms of North Africa. I've seen this with my own eyes. So I see the relation of this by going through charts. We got some of them here. Remember the Labico Berber, the Iberian scripts? These are prime examples when you go into the abjad of what they're talking about here. It says connection with the latter groups, together known as the Hermetic family, is a very thorny subject, but the relationship to Semitic tongues can be fairly accurately defined. In general structure, the similarity is very great. Egyptian shares the principal peculiarity of the Semitic in that its word stems consist of combinations of consonants, as a rule 3 in number, which they are theoretically at least unchangeable. Grammatical inflection and minor variations of meaning are contrived mainly by ringing the changes on the internal vowels through affixed endings, also are used for the same purpose. And last but not least, the brother made this statement, and this is on page 325. I was reading from page 319 in the previous measure. So it states 23.6, which is the reinstatement of the original letter forms and its ABGD sequence. This is what we have done. You have did nothing more than reinstated the original letter form with this particular research you did today, or you brought forth or bringing forth today, Moons. So follow the ABGD ETC sequence, which is already being used by the Sufis and in all subjects of study, such as mathematics, etc., and abandon the illogical and difficult Arabic introduced in the 10th century, ABT. They're talking about the Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, Ha. We use that sequence because it's easy to remember the letters, but that's not the abjad order. You see what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with using that sequence. Like we put it together in the 7 measures to go through that alphabet, but it's not the abjad order. You see what I'm saying? And so that came forth, he's saying, during the 10th century CE, when they put it in that order and they took away the abjad order. They didn't really take it away, but they just introduced this during that time. Number 2, restore the distinction of the last 6 letters of the Egyptian alphabet. These last 6 letter forms, they have the same letter form of each primary letter. It says, plus added a dot or bar to distinguish each from its prime sonic twin. Restore all letter forms to those prior to the 10th century CE and the APTD changes. What he is talking about here, family, he's basically telling you those letters. Remember the last few letters that we came with after we dealt with those that went to the T, the 22, the root 22? The 6 letters that makes it 28, like I said before, you go through the comparative chart. Well, guess what? All you have to do in order to do that is go back over here to page 166, where I was just showing you the divergence of the sounds. And it actually has it here, and you will know, how to compare where those words actually go at. So the same way that we are putting the hieratic order as it is, and we're going to put those letters that are mentioned as different hieratic letters on the side of it, you do the same thing with the actual transliteration in the letters. You know, if it's T and it calls for a TH, put that on the side of that where you'll have it in front of you. You know, the same thing with a D and a T. Put those interchangeable marks that they already here for us in the writing modes, but praise be to Allah, we have these resources to go to. And so at this time, we can call forth our next Moorish kin because we know these things are strengthening us along the way. Islamism, Mother Ma'at. Yeah, we got a lot of Ma'atic mothers in here. Islam.
Islam, Islam, Islam. This has been a grand class. First of all, I want to rise, giving all praises to our Father God Allah, giving honor to our Prophet Noble Durali, the last prophet in these days and times, giving honor to our Georgia consulate for providing the forum for our ears class this morning, to Act One, to all of my Moorish kin online, and also to our host instructor, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, Dr. Shadwa Menti El Mohedded Shepsuel. Much gratitude to you, Dr. Shahid. Now, when you had sent the email out, I did get it from Dr. Diane Carter Bay. Praise Allah for that. I just wanted to share my screen because these keys, every class we have, you bring even more clarity and answer questions that I might have had in going over the alphabets. Now, what I did, just share my screen briefly. What I did, I'm going to start with, do you see the lesson one, family? Okay, I'm going to start with the charts that I use. The first one was dealing with lesson one that we tried to find last week, dealing with the one that had the demonic and the hieratic side by side. Of course, I used Mustafa Gondola's abjad, you know, coming from the book that Dr. Shahi was just reading from. So I used this first off. Then the second one that I went to was coming from KEMET, Egyptian scribe website. And it also had the breakdown of hieratic, which we had gone over in class before, dealing with the unilaterals. And I went down in every, for instance, starting with A. I used that previous chart, the lesson one. Then I went to this one, and every form of A that I found, and of course, this went through various letters, I put that down on the category of A as well. The third chart that I went through was before I was able to get to that second website. It says warning. In order to be able to use this, you got to key in, you got to press here for the Unicodes. Excuse me, more skin. So that's what I did. And it started off as Egyptus. I scrolled down because it said Egyptian hieroglyphs, Coptic, Meroitic. Scroll down, and this is still coming from this website here, the KEMET Egyptian scribe. So I'm scrolling down to see if I see any other alphabets. And as Allah would have it, here is the Egyptian alphabet, hieratic, transliteration, hieroglyphic, and Kariazis images. And I said, okay, I looked down here where it had hieratic alphabet. And I said, see this here? This matches with this. So I said, I'm going to use this as the A2. So these were the first three that I went through and did my chart in comparison, which I'll show you in a minute. And this morning, something said, excuse me, Morishkin, hold on. This morning, I went back over my homework and I said, you know what, let me check out this tab here. And this was under the one of the first that we had been sent, dealing with the Coptic. Scroll down and I said, you know what, here's a hieratic column as well. So let me just go back over my assignment, a fourth chart now, and make sure I have all of the A's, all of the B's, all of the G's, all of the D's. I said, praise the Lord for just, because you want to make sure you can have a half decent presentation. So what I had taken a picture of was before I added this fourth chart. So I have it written down, but let me go to what I took a picture of as far as the first three charts are concerned, because the law is God, I tell you. Let me just. Okay, this is what I wrote down using the first three charts that I showed you. Now, when I saw the fourth one, again, I hand wrote it in on the cardboard paper, had to start a new section. But in essence, these are all of the A's that I saw from those first three charts. Then, of course, there was another A that I added when I went to that first chart. And this is what I did all the way through. So if you note, some of these look familiar, but I said, when we go to start our dictionary, I want to make sure that I have all of the variations of the letters. And based upon what you stated today, Dr. Shahid, I'm going to pull up some more and see if I can find some more hieratic alphabetical charts that may have something different than what I have already. So that's why I have the, all of these are a combination of, just blow it up a little, like the H that Dr. Dendero was speaking about, where it had, it looks like a house over here, square. One of them even had what looked like a 3 over a stick. One looked like a 6, so this was just, and I attribute it to various scribes or various different, you mentioned vocalic, but just different people writing, whether it be different time groups or things of that nature. But it was really fascinating. I also noticed that down throughout, now I put to the side the S, the Z, the same thing that you were speaking about. I noticed there were a lot of scripts that looked like an F, so this looked like an angle to me coming out of geometry. So I was just noting, this looks like almost like a check mark. I was just noticing the various, let me go to the next page. Yeah, I was just noticing the various similarities. Not similar, looking like a square that we saw on the previous measure. That L, as you stated, looked like a fancy L. I didn't find too many for that because pretty much they ran through all of the scripts that I had looked at. Mean still looked like the 3. This one was a little raggedy 3. Noon. And this is how we can see the similarities, as you stated, Dr. Shahid, between the M and the N, which for myself, in updating my chart, I'm going to, make notation of M and N. We can see the similarities where this started out with 2 sticks, that 1 with a hook in it. We see the 3s, in reference to those demonstrations. S had a whole lot in it. And we know that in abjab, it's got several S's and things of that nature. It was just very fascinating because some of these things were similar. And then, of course, this is the last part, the 21 through 28. And because we had so many S's, I just say for my growth and development, I said C number 15, which is where I put all of the symbols of the S's together, so that I wasn't duplicating, or, we had a lot of T's, and I just went down the line with that. But I did add some of the, like the I, which again looked like an F, but I did add some of those because they were different abjab charts, as you pointed out. So the one I used was coming out of Mustafa Gondolas, but I noticed that when you were dealing with the Phoenician and Hebrew lesson number 1 thing, then I can go back and use that as the foundation and pivot all the rest of the symbols from there. So that was my demonstration. This class is grand. Much gratitude to you for taking us through the various measures, because as you stated, every time I write down these symbols, it helps bring a little bit more clarity, because I'm looking forward to putting our stuff together, but it's also helping me deal with the history, not only dealing with the languages, but the history of the people and the different names. You know, yesterday, just as a side thing, just going from Adam Codman all the way down to Yehoshua as far as genealogy. And after that, I want to do the dynasty starting from Jehudi, Mu, and just for my own records, and make a PowerPoint out of that so that I have something to offer later on down the line. So that's my measure. Much gratitude to you, Dr. Shaheed, grand instructor. Definitely appreciate all that you do. So I'm going to stop sharing. Peace and love.
Islam, goodness gracious. Grand National Secretary of State, see what has happened here, what I've seen with all of the homework that our family brought forth. Each and every one had a portion of the whole. Whether we know it or not, all of our people brought forth something that added to the totality. And this is, remember, this is our research. This is going into our education apparatus, and the young seeds coming behind us, they'll have something to grab hold to. But you actually did what we were telling the Moors to do. You already done it. Prophet say, when I tell you I'm gonna do a thing, I already done it. And so we see that you already put these things in the order. Your mind automatically said, well, let me group these things and categorize. And so the Grand National Secretary of the State has done that. We too have to do it. And sis, we'll love too when you get a chance to digitize it, you know, like how you crop it out, you know, how you take it and put it in the form. That's good though. Keep that raw form as well, you know, but when you put it all in form, we can add that in the beginning of our, you know, compilation of our dictionary when we start compiling, because these charts, they will be able to go back to and see what's interchangeable in the Demotic form, in this form, also in the Coptic form, because we did measures on that as well. And, you know, it's going to be powerful because all of our words is going to come from all of these languages when we compile a dictionary. So when one is reading the Grand Quran, they want to go there, they'll be able to go there. When they read what they like to call, quote unquote, Hebrew, which we call Proto-Sinaitic, we can go there. You know, when they want to read the Hieratic and the Demotic, we're going to have it all there. And our language will be universal in the sense that we are extracting from all of this. You know, and we will actually use it as spoken word, as opposed to just limited it to a translation or transliteration, because they're words. Why not use the language that the great God Allah used to speak it? You know what I mean? And so forth and so on. And that's a powerful drawing. And we love the way you were showing the letters, you know, and the morphology. That's exactly what we were just describing. You know, even when it comes to dealing with the concept of, let's say, Adam Codman, whether we know it, and you often hear me say this, the cod man, cod money, they actually use the Q. The morphology goes in the Q. Sometimes you'll see it spelled Q-A-D. That's in the Sufi spell it like that. It also is one of the attributes of the great God Allah, which is Kadim, which means the first. So it's not strange that the word Codman actually means original man, but then it's an attribute in the Arabic, you know, that actually means, you know, first. You know, it also means, and I showed it to our Moorish kin and what they like to call Hebrew Proto-Sinaitic, Proto-Canaanite, it means indigenous, it means ancient. You know, I mean, it goes in all those definitions that have to do with being first. And this is why we say Adam Codman existed in the beginning. You see how through just the linguistics, we can show you with that alone. But let's morph that into the word, into this area and time, and interchange the word Q or the K and bring it down to the G, like we seen in the measure that Mustafa Gadala was speaking of. So it becomes Adam God-man, or Atum, because the T is interchangeable with the D, Atum, you see? And they actually have the word Katim, you know, which deals with seal or keeper of the seal, you know, katam amentu, you know, amentu katam. That's all in the Kemetic language. So he showed you how he did it with the Mikael and the Miguel, and it's the same way. But people want you to believe that you're crazy, you know, when you go to show them this linguistic, you know, trail, so to speak, that's leading back to the source, like we did with the word mar, and then came into Mari, you know, and then we came all the way into Moor. You see, we deal with Moabite, and we deal with the Mozabite. The Mozabite is the Moabite. These are the Mauritanians, the people that were there, you know, to this. So this is powerful. And if this don't bust the linguistic barrier, you know, then one just ain't meant to get it. We give honors to you, Grand National Secretary of the State, for your due diligence, and all the Moors that brought their measures on the manifest as well. Because we see light, Islam. Okay, Goddess and Queen.
Islam, I do have a question, Dr. Shahid. Do you have a easy method of how to, one that's not too much computer literate, but getting there, because still striving? What is the easiest way to start digitizing these things, except for, you know, print screen and then put it in a category and bring it forth if we're trying to do a PowerPoint?
Well, they have programs, you know, and they deal with Unicodes. We're gonna probably one day have to produce our own, so to speak. But what I would normally do is, if I was putting it together in a PowerPoint set, I would just go and take each one of the letters as we normally do, which is a process, you know, and there are actually certain scripts out there that have the hieratic, but I can't find all of them. You know, I know they got to be there somewhere. I've been looking. I got a few of the hieratic letters though, that's actually there. If you dig deep, you can find them. But nevertheless, other than that, we can only really copy and paste what we have. We can use the chart that we already got in the order, but then take a portion of that and then put it next to the letters like we would normally do a PDF, like I did with the Demotic language, basically, you know, and then just put it there as a whole. And then eventually we can find a site where we can actually digitize it and create it like how they did with the Sesh MetaNeta site. We're gonna actually have to look into that. So I want to do some research in that area myself, so we can establish our own website and have our information there for people to go into. You know, I'm talking about with the historical lessons. There's also capabilities now in YouTube where you can actually transcribe or get the transcript of the letters. So we can actually compile this stuff we have right now, even in the book form. Because you never know when this digital stuff may fall through, so to speak, but we'll still have it, you know, bound. And that's going to be a job for, you know, our secretary pool. That's why the prophets say we're going to need 16 of them. And it really ain't a hard job, because it's really just proofreading certain measures. We go through there, some of the stuff we spoke on, because you know that thing don't really translate, you know, in the captions as it's supposed to. You see it on your TV. They don't be saying exactly what them people be saying. They say box and somebody might put bark, you know, as far as, so little stuff like that we want to get involved with as well. You know, we'll get with some of our sisters and brothers, you know, too, alike, that would like to take part in them projects. So Islam, that's definitely a work in process, Goddess and Queen. Yeah, we gonna do it. We got to do it, you know, Islam. So, all right. Is there any other more who would like to come forth and exercise their 5 and bring forth their homework? The Moors are doing grand, and oh man, the people gonna get so much clarity from this. Remember, we the only ones that have set out on this task to teach our people the hieratic and the demotic. But when we begin to get this knowledge that we have and start going through the text, because that's a process. It ain't something that you do overnight, you know, because we got to really look at these things and sift through them. And, you know, so we'll actually do that, you know, get a time to where we actually put certain papyri out there for our family to transliterate while we putting our dictionary together, because that's what's going to make us more familiar with the language as well. So Islam, is there any other more that would like to bring forth their assignment you know. Okay, well, all is well, all is well. Praise be to Allah. What we're gonna do then, we're gonna open up the floor for our officials, and then we'll open up the floor for the measures of the Moors that's here that would like to give a particular comment or whatever they had to say. So let's start by calling forth our Grand National Chairman, Dr. Akin Acton Pert M. Heru, Tutankhamun Bey, Islam. All right. You there, Chairman?
He might be on a mission more. We were in
Oh.
2 different locations. Gratitude.
That's right, Islam. Well, praise be to Allah. We know the angel is most definitely well saddled and equipped for the journey along the way. Islam, we love our chairman. Well, we see our National Grand Sheik is most definitely on the manifest. I know he loved this one right here. I think this that one the Sheik been waiting, that class that he been waiting to get the drawing on. Let us call forth our National Grand Sheik, Dr. Serapis Amin Rael. Islam, you there, Sheik?
Islam. Praise Allah. All the sons and daughters of heaven, we give honor to the prophet for bringing this grand demonstration to all of our citizens, Morris America. We are so proud of you, Shadi, for the work that you have been doing, as well as the students that are attending these classes. I am sitting here actually humbled and amazed by the progress that's being articulated. And as I was sitting here, I'm contemplating the strength of this document and how far it has come. And what stood naturally to me, you said that the Moors will be able to utilize this in teaching others. And that carries me back to what we doing on this plane of things made manifest. We straighten out the house so that our children can live in it and live a sublime life and not worry about falsehoods. They have the truth that's being articulated in these documents here, and how you are bringing these things from the meta and the other document from the teachings of others, and you incorporating them in our understanding of these documents, where we can letter it all over the world. That's very profound, and because they're gonna look back and say, "But this is what they did coming out of Morris America." And see, because there will be a Morris America, and it will be written in what we call stone. It will be a factual presentation, heavenly salt and heavenly broth. We give the honors to the Moors that are taking the time and utilizing the spirit of consciousness and bringing this demonstration on the manifest. It's like a baby being born, and how one takes the time and make sure they give them the right aspect of milk that won't hurt the baby. And I'm humbled to see, but I'm also enthusiastic and really joyful to bear witness and to this demonstration that's unfolding right before my very eyes. to the students of your class, praise the Lord for you, brothers and sisters. Harmony and truth, for you have took and brought things into the manifest that no one else had done. And this is I would say a milestone in the journey of the race. It's an attachment that we can be proud of and say, well, I did that. And when we give our grandchildren the science, they're not reading it for what somebody else said. They're reading it about what their fathers and mothers said. Islam.
Islam, that's the intent. Yeah, they won't be able to ask them the question they asking us when we trying to sift through this measure. You're right, Sheik. Well, why you using a European source then? You know, you got to use, no, it's not using the source. It's actually going through the source and vetting the source, and we're not giving credence to that demonstration. I'm going to show you something else too that's noteworthy as well, Morris Ken. Remember, I showed this to you because a lot of this can also account for some of those letters that our people are seeing being written as A, and B or whatever, and they add it in. Remember, you have what you call the Hieratic language, which is different from the cursive hieroglyphs, but a lot of people would call, if they come from a Eurocentric thought pattern, they would call this Hieratic too, which that's not proper. In the proper context is cursive hieroglyphs, so this is a possibility where you have those who are putting charts together, the ones that we sifted through, that they are getting the letters, from the cursive hieroglyphs confused with the hieratic, but nevertheless, we would still put these things, beside each other, but yet keeping that original chart out front, that one that we know has the exact abjad that we're dealing with. You see what I'm saying? So that's the key for our family as well. That's where a lot of the conflict, I think, is coming from as well. Because we got to remember, some of these people are going by exactly what the Europeans said is supposed to be the history. That's why when we're reading through this, they're going to say the hieroglyphics came first. They're going to give you all the Unicodes that go back to the symbols that Gardenia created. Every Egyptian so-called teacher or Egyptology teacher under the auspices of the European, by the way, goes by Alan Gardenia's sign list. That's one thing they never bucked. If they came after him, they used that sign list everywhere. They didn't go back to try to remove that landmark. So they always reference that, and it will be useful when it comes to us going into the metaphysics of things and dealing with codes, and so forth and so on, decoding them. But it has nothing to do with this alphabet other than just being markers of identification. That's how you look at it. So when you see that beside them, don't look at it as language to be translated. Look at them as markers, that you can identify certain things or whatever. You see, because all they did is still dealt with the hieratic, but used that marker and created their own little hodgepodge. You see? So that's the only thing those symbols are good for, family. Not to be understood as a language, but just markers of identification. So Islam, what we see, all right, there's nobody else there. We don't see a set of moon there. Well, we'll call for our beloved brother, Assistant Chairman, Dr. Torre Anu Rasul Simpson Bay. Hold up, better yet, because, our Grand National Secretary of the State, we normally call her for, just to give her measure. And we want to keep that as it is. And I should have called her when I called behind the chairman. Go ahead, Goddess and Queen. Islamism.
Islam, Islam, Islam. Having already risen, given praise and honor where due. Just want to reiterate the magnanimous grandeur of this special divine and national journey that Allah has embarked us upon. It is just, it's so magnanimous. I really don't have words because I can recall as a young child identifying between two things, what they called as the so-called Indians and also the Egyptians, not having a clue that all of these were my people, and coming into more science and having Prophet Noble Drew Ali break down and give us the truth of not only the fact that we are Moorish American nationals, but that we are spirit and a part of the great God Allah, and encouraging us in reference to reliance upon Allah and knowledge of one's history, and just being able to trace yourselves back, Moorish kin, and be able to receive consciousness, revelations, and where you can actually see the journey of what Prophet Noble Drew Ali was bringing to us and why. This is such a magnanimous demonstration. It's every time we go into these classes, it's a paradigm shift because it's pulling more wool or whatever off the eyes, you know, to unfold into even greater consciousness of how beautifully and wonderfully not only we are made, but the history, the grandeur of our special people. And nothing could be even more powerful than the special language. You know, and when our National Grand Sheikh was speaking, Dr. Shaheed, it just had me reflect on just how these scripts came from stone, where you could actually see it. I was also trying to think of what would Moorish America can Moorish America use in reference to us having businesses and support each other and things of that nature. And when the Grand Sheikh spoke, it just caused me to reflect on when we do our dictionaries and things of that nature. There's nothing wrong with etching stuff in stone again, or ceramics, the kiln, the whole 9 yards. And that's also going to draw Moors to Moorish America, you know, just like how you can go to the ancient Canaanites right now in New Mexico or what have you, and they have different, like a cup or a plate, with their symbols and markers and what it means to their special nation. This is the same thing that we're going to be able to do as well, because we're not restricted to just the digital, the verbal, the Facebook and things of that nature. We're also going to be able to use these as crafts, you know, to bring our culture full circle, you know. So I just had that vision, and I wanted to say this class is key. Gratitude to Act One and to you, Dr. Shaheed, because as gods, there are no limitations, you know, and this is just what the prophet spoke about as race pride, and it's constantly unfolding every moment of the day. So gratitude more. I'm so glad, as Dr. Dendra often states, to be a part of this, because you know, not a word is lost. So praise Allah and gratitude. Peace and love.
Praise the Lord and gratitude for that mention. It's not strange because you can actually get papyri paper, for example, online. And we definitely can get the papyri paper, and like you said, lay out plastering, you know what I mean, and put the actual imprints, you know, whether we have to get them cast or we engrave them by hand, you know, all of that. And like you said, make grand expressions out of them. The papyri paper even powerful because, you know, once we learn and we write like we do, and we get all the definitions of the word, we can put just different measures of the literatures, you know, in these special drawings, and hang them up around the house, you know, certain sayings and statements that's coming forth from the literature of the prophet, the Moorish Holy Quran. You know, we put the symbols that we have, our similar like what you see right here behind me, you know, and just bring it all into fruition from the Moorish perspectives. And yeah, that is most definitely something that is going to add on to our successful lineage, so to speak, and that which will aid and assist our people. So this is all a part of it. Islamism without the schism. Grand thought, Grand National Secretary of the State. You right on point. Well, all right. Let us call forth now our beloved brother, Assistant Chairman, Dr. Torrey Anu Rasul Simpson Bey. Islam, what have you to say, Grand Man?
Islam. Well, I have to say that it's a grand class, another grand year's class brought forth, by the Moorish American government and our host, Dr. Shuttle Amenti Muhaji Subsuwa, our National Sister Grand Sheikh of Moorish America. Man, some grand measures by the Moorish King. And also when we talk about this this writing script. And I just have to say, as we go through, as we, like I said, we recall the journey, and we recall all the lessons and all the teachings and the homeworks, and well, I don't think I can make it today, and we able to make it. I just have to say that, man, well, I have to say that, hey, therefore we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. Come, all ye Asiatic of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the families of nations. We honor all the true and divine prophets. So Moorish kin, I have to say that it's always an honor and a blessing to be amongst my Moorish kin. Also to know that the great God Allah created me, He created we. He also gave us a holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, because without Prophet Noble Drew Ali, man, we wouldn't be here rocking or being the example of a Moorish American. Like look at our National Sister Grand Sheikh, look at our national Grand Secretary of State, and all the mighty Moors online, and all of our Book of Fire, Book of Ali, our Quran, all these things we have because our holy prophet. So all you gotta do is keep your feet moving and keep thinking. And like I said, this is just a grand measure to take it back and to correct and be a part of our Moorish American government and our Moorish American nation. Islam, Islam, Islam.
In Islamism, brother, we give honor to you for that grand draw, and praise be to Allah. It's been a powerful measure here. All right. Well, we're going to open up the floor and see if any of our Moorish kin would like to bring forth some measures, and then we'll take it to third heaven, even though we already there. Islam. All right. So is there any more that would like to add on before we close out, on what it was that has been brought forth in this Egyptian Adeptus Research Sultanate session? Islam? All right. Going once?
Islam.
Islam. Dr. Marvin Elvis Bey.
Oh, gratitude.
Well, you ain't gonna let them crickets do nothing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is Dr. Elvis Bey. Praise and honor shall be given. I just want to say that it's been a beautiful experience. Being in this class and sharing the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that's being brought forth and elevated, and just thinking about just the different measures that the Moors brought. I mean, like Grand Secretary of the State. I mean that was beautiful that she brought on. You know what I mean? And it just opens up the mind to all of the possibilities. You know what I mean? So when one is free, one can, bring forth, all of these beautiful things. And it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of this. You know what I mean? To be you know, shoulder to shoulder. And I just want to say gratitude, God, man, for all that you do and all that the Moorish American government is doing and all of the Moors that's here, you know, all that we do. Gratitude, God, man. Islam and peace.
And gratitude to you as well, Grand Man, for all that you do, Muslim. Grand measure brought forth by yourself and always due diligence being brought to the manifest, Islam. All right, is there any other more that would like to come forward? Well, all right, I guess our Moorish kin a little busy. Praise be to Allah. We have everything that need to be brought forth, and honors to all the Moors that partake, you know, and brought forth their measure being part and partial. And it's been a grand drawing, and we love you. We know the Moors got to get to their affairs, and we also have a Sunday school class to get to a little later. And praise be to Allah, you know, and may we be more elevated, you know, than we were prior to this time and continue to ascend. Because that's the real measure, ascend. You know, our chairman has a symbol with the wings on the fez and the turban. And this has to do with the ascending into the heights. In all actuality, this is actually a Sufi adept symbol as well. We know that wings are synonymous with books and information. And it's one thing to look at the text in the tabloid or the physical form, but another thing to become the text and place everything in context. And this is how we are able to soar to the heights of our divinity and understanding in our comprehension. So we just say gratitude, Islamism without the schism. And that being said, you got it, Brother Torrey Simpson Bey. Take us home.
Allah, Ali, and we. Islamism without the schism. Islam.
Islamism.
Islam. Islam, Islam. January the 15th, 1929. A warning from the Prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We offer peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your cards is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We offer love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings toward the government or the Prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their Prophet. If they lose confidence in their Prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the Prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet, noble Juali, and if the Prophet is not right, the government is not right. The Prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their Prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways by order of Prophet Noble Juali. Islam, the holy covenant of the Asiatic nation. Ye are the children of one father provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam, Islam, Islam. This meeting has been closed according to Act 2 of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We say Islam, Islam, Islamism. Stay strong, mighty Moors.
Great class, Morris, Ken, gratitude.
Yes, indeed.
Islam.
Grand measure.
Gratitude.
Grand
Love you,
measure.
Morris.
Islam.
Mighty angel.
Love, Morris.
Islam.
Peace and
Oh,
love.
yeah, we almost there, Moors. Islam.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, praise the Lord.
Peace and love.
Peace and
love.
love.
You Moors in Sunday school class. Islam. We love you,
Islam.
Chairman.
Love you, Chairman.
Yeah. Love you too.
All right. Peace and love, family.
Peace and love.
Shalom.
Peace and love.
Boom. There we go. Leave all.